Good afternoon. Welcome to another recording of the Atheist Hangout. My name is Doka Soita, and I am a proud atheist. Today, we are talking about the correlation between religion and poverty. In fact, it was titled, Religion and Poverty. What is the correlation? Where did this idea come from? It comes from the statistics. I looked at the numbers, the poorest countries in the world. These are the nations. Number one, South Sudan. You know about its conflict and all its struggles. Burundi, number two. In fact, I live in Mwihoko, Kiambu County, and we have a lot of Burundians there. They tell us that life is grim in their country. 3, Central African Republic. 4, Yemen. 5, Mozambique. 6, Malawi. 7, Democratic Republic of Congo. You know about its blood diamonds and all of its resource curses. And you also know about the rebel leaders and the political instability in the Congo. Then after that, number 6 is Malawi. Democratic Republic was number 7. Number 8 is Somalia. It's been a failed state for a number of decades from the 1990s. Then Liberia, and finally Madagascar. When you look at these same countries' religiosity, they happen to be highly religious. In Somalia, close to over 95% of the population is Muslim. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, over 90% of the population is Christian. And all the others, Burundi, etc., all those nations are extremely religious. And they are also extremely poor. They are the poorest countries in the world. So I asked myself, is it a coincidence? Is religion partly to blame? Of course, we understand that poverty is a complex phenomenon, and there are many reasons why a country can become poor. But we were wondering whether religion is one of the reasons why these countries are really poor. On top of that, we've also heard of a number of explanations behind this phenomenon, these statistics, that it so happened the poorest countries happen to be the most religious countries. Some people say that religion is causing poverty. We look at the plausibility of that. Others say that it is merely a coincidence. It is merely a coincidence that these people happen to be religious and poor. Then others say that it is a side effect. Religion is a side effect of poverty. It is a coping mechanism, in the same way that you can have people who take alcohol when they are feeling depressed. It's a coping mechanism. So some people say religion is a way for the poor to withstand their suffering. So in that respect, religion would actually be a force for good in such a context. So we look at whether that is true. Which of those 3 explanations carries the day? And here we are coming from a neutral point of view. Even though we are atheists, we need to give religion its flowers. If we find that religion is not responsible for poverty, we need to acknowledge it. We are data-driven. We go where the research leads, okay? So if we find that there is no correlation, we just accept it and say, yes, religion and poverty are not related, and we are going to attack religion, or we are going to criticize religion for other reasons, not for poverty. But if we find that there is a correlation, then we are going to call them out. But we are just going to follow the evidence. So, given that context, let's begin with the causes that research has found that lead to poverty. Why are these countries, most of them, 9 out of the 10 poorest countries in the world come from Africa? Guy, black people, who bewitched you? So what are the causes? What are the reasons why these African countries and that one Middle Eastern nation, Yemen, are extremely poor? One is conflict and political instability. These countries happen to have a lot of wars. Somalia, Democratic Republic of Congo, Central African Republic, Burundi, all of them actually have had political instability and war. So we need to ask ourselves, is there any correlation with religion? Does religion contribute to conflict in any way such that now it leads to poverty? That's one reason. Another one is corruption and economic mismanagement. So we can examine whether there's any relationship between corruption and religion. If there is none, if it's really far-fetched, then we discard that one. Another one is rapid population growth, where people are having so many children and yet the resources are not adequate to meet their needs. There's no sufficient food, healthcare, or etc. to fulfill the needs of such a high population. Number 4 is limited education. How does religion play into that? Is it a positive thing or a negative? And finally, healthcare. There might be other causes of poverty that you guys have come across and you would like to contribute towards. So let's start with that. We'll talk about other angles to this discussion as we continue, but let's start with that.
For me, I would say poverty sustains actually political instability. I would not say that I'm not too sure about its cause, if it causes, but I gravitate towards the position that because most people when they're faced with political instability or conflicts, more so in the global south, where do they retreat? The churches, the mosques, you see, the temples. So in some way, religiosity, I would say, is a refuge when such things arises. So I guess it doesn't cause, but it sustains it, because once the churches take them in, isn't it? Then what happens? The churches act as advocacy groups. Oh, this is bad. Where do they base their moral teachings? They go back to the scriptures. So for them, for most people, conflict resolution happens when the church gets involved, because there's a certain, and I would say poverty in some sense, more so in Africa, it's materialistic, yes, but even if you look at how prosperity gospel has infiltrated churches in Africa, it ties to the spirituality of things to some sense, because like maybe you don't have money because spiritually you are inferior, so it doesn't translate materialistically, you understand? So I would say this adds to that feeling that being insufficient spiritually is the reason as to why maybe there is poverty.
Okay, my name is Tanner. I'm a ex-pastor Stano. So my opinion is the war or the political war is not connected to the religious, but religious they motivate, because those people, because they are still religious people, they get motivation from the scripture or from their religiosity, that they will win the war because God is on their side. So that is only the way they can get motivated to continue fighting, because they believe God will help them to win.
Hello, I'm Musempi. I'm an agnostic. On my take about this topic, among the mentioned top 10 poorest countries. If, for example, a country is dominated by Christian, a president automatically becomes a Christian. If it is dominated by a Muslim, a president automatically becomes a Muslim. So I want to correlate this poverty with the religion in some aspect, because now, no matter how the weak and the corrupt the president is, as long as the majority belongs to their religion, they will just vote for that president. Now, if you, for example, the Congo is said to be among the richest producer of, I think, rubber, copper, and diamond, but they are ranked among the poorest countries. You ask yourself why? The war is being actually encouraged by the outsiders, because I read somewhere in history that there was one king by the name King Leopard. I don't know, King Leopard II or something. He came there with the missionaries. In fact, they came on, they were evangelizing about the kingdom of heaven. So they were telling those people in Congo that the gold in Congo is of the world. Their gold is in heaven. So you see, now you motivate this person not to think about solving any problem, or they will now employ them anachronistic way of actually solving their problems, because the Congo is not their home. Their home is somewhere. So now I think I can connect this property with a religion to some extent, because now if our president, for example, in this country of ours, Kenya, the majority is Christian. No matter how smart a person from a Muslim community, we cannot elect that person in any position. For example, in the big position, we cannot. Why? Because we have that mentality of us versus them.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, and I am seeing how many of you are itching to go to some of the other subtopics that we'll discuss, including land helplessness, which is what Nick highlighted when he was talking about teaching people to depend on charity from the church, or teaching them to be content with their poverty state. So we'll look into that subsequently, but for now we'll concentrate on political instability and its relationship to religion. So I'm with ex-Pastor Stano and a bit with Nikki when they say it's a stretch to find a correlation between religion, especially Christian religion, and war. As per now, across history, there's a very strong relationship. During the 16th century, during all those times when there were the Crusades and all the major religious wars that took place at the inception of Christianity, at that time we can say directly religion caused war, and thus the war led to poverty in those countries. But as per now, Christian religion specifically does not have a strong correlation with religion. So I concede that. But Islamic religion, that one is an extremely violent religion as we speak today. In places like the Central African Republic, in places like Nigeria, where we have Boko Haram, in that Yemen, we have rebel leaders who want to establish a caliphate. They are using their Quran to establish a theocracy. Yeah, in places like Afghanistan, even though it has not appeared in our top 10, it's probably in the top 20 poorest countries of the world. You find that those places have, or Iran or whatever, they have religious Muslim leaders who instate laws that forbid anybody else from a different faith from existing, from expressing their views on the same. And then there are usually factions among those Muslim leaders which disagree with each other and they go at each other violently. This one says, me, I'm the rightfully chosen leader by Allah. This other one says no. And then there are all these insurgents. So violent extremism, terrorism, all of that is present in majority Muslim countries or even non-majority Muslim countries like Nigeria. The majority people are Christians, but there's still a lot of war that is sparked by Islamic doctrines. So in that respect, religion causes political instability and the result is poverty.
Actually, it's funny you brought that up because actually it was the last 48 hours I was actually looking at some piece, but it was, I guess it was a month ago or something. It was about there was this political commentator who was looking at there was some news that was making headlines. It was in the US where they were talking about how the MAGA base has a baby boom, and actually, if you look at it, it was just the press secretary, the wife to the vice president, and the wife to I think Stephen Mill. I don't know. Is a secretary. Is a cabinet secretary. I understand. And they were actually the motive behind it was they were pushing for more women to have babies, more white women to have babies, because if you look at the MAGA context, it's majorly racist, so we must add that context. And funny enough, it didn't go down well as they thought, because the feedback they were getting was like, the people you're talking about are rich people who can afford help, nannies. You understand? The normal citizen doesn't have that luxury, because apparently childcare in America is one of the most expensive industries. Also, if you look at the healthcare and the education, and then the education is deplorable these days. So most American women don't want to. And if you look at it, they were pushing this agenda because they were like, you see, we are pro-life. This is the administration that is pro-life, which ties back to religiosity, of course, because if you look at those women, they always have crosses during press statements. So it got me thinking, if people don't want kids, I mean, obviously it's because the economic situation is deplorable. So yes, religiosity adds to this, because I mean, if you look at most religions, they're like, yeah, go have babies, fill the world. This is your promised earth. You can do whatever you want. Just have babies. Even Sauti Sol they sang, Mungu huleta mtoto analeta na sahani yake, which is I love Sauti Sol, but that is one of the most stupidest things I've ever heard. Because in reality, it doesn't. In reality, actually, the more kids you have, the more stress you have, the less your disposable income goes down. You can see how Kenyan parents have been struggling just to get their kids to school. So I agree with that point, Dorcas, that rapid population growth amidst economic hurdles is majorly tied to religiosity.
What I can say, religious contribute the growth rate or the population to increase. This is because they are, according to their beliefs, they believe God, children are the blessing from God. And just the way Nick have said, they have this slogan that say, a child come with its own plate or with its own food. So God will provide for that child. So, and the more children you are getting, the more God will help you to feed them. So with that mentality, they get more children. And that is why the poverty increase because of the religion, because that religious mentality causes people not to have any responsibility when they are giving birth. And sometimes you may find there is some religious dogma that about doctrine that say do not use the family planning. Family planning is illegal. Using condom is illegal. Like Catholic, the way they advocate. So you find now the couple cannot do their family planning. And sometimes you may find all the religious, they say abortion is a crime. So you end up getting a child that you will not be able to take care of because of that mentality. God is against abortion. God is against family planning. So you end up getting many children.
I absolutely agree with the two of you on this one. I believe it was the late great Christopher Hitchens, a militant atheist and one of my role models, who said that when you give women control over childbearing, you empower a nation. We as Africans, we usually say that when you educate a man, you educate one person. But when you educate a woman, you educate an entire, is it home or something like that, an entire home or an entire society. So when you educate women about their ability to control childbearing, you automatically increase child longevity, you reduce child mortality, you increase education levels for that child, and you also reduce poverty. So there is a correlation between this. But now we are tying it to religion. We are trying to look at whether religion has any contributing factor on childbearing. And I concur with the rest. I won't even belabor the point. The one on the Catholic Church and contraceptive use, I believe that the Catholic Church for the longest time forbade its adherents from using contraceptives. They said that it is ungodly, it is immoral to use contraceptives. In fact, the HIV pandemic soared in the African continent predominantly because of this edict from the Catholic Church. It was really a force for evil among the poor. It lifted that ban on contraceptives. It became educated and realized, hey man, we are misleading people. It lifted that ban, I believe, in the 2010s, but the message was so strong that it stigmatized contraceptive use. And many people in rural areas, if you go there and you ask them if they are Catholics, is it okay, is it moral to use contraceptives? Many will still hold the position that it is immoral to use contraceptives. So we need to be aware of that. And we need to realize that this is the problem with religion, is that it makes people follow dogmatic ideas that are not a respecter of evidence. You know, you look at the evidence, you realize if people are having children without a plan, and they're having so many of them, they're becoming poor. So we need to reduce the number of children that we are having. And we try and encourage people to do that. But with religion, they still maintain their position because it's dogmatic and because it was written in their holy text, they still maintain their position that they are going to continue having children. That's for Christians. For Muslims, you know, in Kenya, the average Kenyan woman will have 2 children, but the average Somali woman, the Kenyan Somalis, I'm speaking about the Kenyan Somalis, predominantly in the northern region, they will have an average of 6 children. In Islam, you are encouraged. You just have them. Yeah. So it definitely contributes to overpopulation and thus poverty.
For me, that one is a two-way street, because if you look at the history of Africa, more so colonization, religious groups actually advocated for formal education, which has made us better. I mean, if you'd add, because informal education was getting us somewhere, but not where the world was edging to. So if you look at, even if you look at top schools in Kenya, historically top schools in Kenya, I would say a significant number is they have patronage from churches, from the church, also the Anglican Church, the Presbyterian Church, and the Catholic churches in Kenya. Not forgetting the SDA, Seventh Day Adventists. If you look at even most schools, currently most private schools, you'd find that there's a Saint Mary attached to it, and when you look at it, even the Saint Mary, they're not even predominantly the Anglican or the Catholic. Not that I'm gatekeeping, but they have even invented their own saints. So as I don't know, to have that inclusivity or something. Now I said it's a two-way street because the negative side of it is these institutions, because they are largely religiously, they are largely religious establishments. You'd find that the education that is given to, let's say, the students and the kids is tied to some religious affinity. I remember I also schooled I was in primary school. I had the opportunity to school in a religious established school, and I firsthand I saw how also it was divisive, because if you are a Catholic and then you are in a Catholic school and then you take catechism classes in that Catholic school, chances are you're going to have very good perks, because there's a lot of religious trips involved. Another thing is you'd be much more closer to the teachers who are sometimes mostly were nuns, and most of the teachers were Catholic, were subscribed to the Catholic denomination. So the economic teachings, I think, adds to this, because if there's that divisiveness, it means that maybe me and you will never sit eye to eye economically, because we have different visions or different views of how to go, or maybe that divisiveness already has set a standard as to how I will move. If let's say I want business transactions, maybe I don't trust you that enough because maybe you're not Catholic or maybe you're not Muslim. So, but if we subscribe to the same God, if there's any, let's say, mishap that happens between us, then automatically I believe in the same consequences, or I believe in the same benefits as you. So I feel like you're more of a good business partner than someone that is not.
Okay, what I will say, the education and the hospital or medical health care are being affected by religion. The reason is because the religious people, they prioritize, they put the first priority is about their faith or their belief. When they get sick, they just believe God will heal them, or superstitious will intervene. So they wait until it's too late. And when the disease becomes serious, then they will spend a lot in hospital, and that will add more poverty in their family. And about the education, because of that mentality of the religions, they give birth many children, or they have many kids. They are unable to educate. That's why you find a lot of children, they are unable to continue with their education, or they are being forced to drop out from school to try to educate the younger one, because of that religious mentality of not allowing family planning, or thinking that God will provide when they get more children. That is how the education will be affected in the religious family because of population due to the religious, and also about the hospital because of their faith. They may delay to go to hospital, and the disease may cause a lot of, or may go to an extent that consuming a lot of money. Yeah, and again, because of the most of the poverty is the one that causing the people to become more religious. Because when you are, the more stable you are financially, the less religious you are. So because of the poverty, they become more religious, and because they are more religious, it continue to enhance more poverty, because now the religious, they are giving them the mentality that God is on their side and will solve for their problem instead of looking for solution.
So you said that religious people, when they get sick, they don't go to the hospital because they believe God will heal them, right?
Some,
Yeah, but not all of
But-
them. I would say
but-
most of them don't do that.
yes, most of them don't do that, though sometimes they delay.
Sometimes
They delay to seek for medication.
yeah, but not for religious reasons.
Yeah, for religious reason. They
Really,
delay.
I feel like this is
And I was once
Yeah,
affected
thi-
by the same thing.
this is an exception, because there are even hospitals who are owned by the churches. So if church doesn't believe in science, why would they own hospitals? I feel like most religious people, they go to the hospital just like the non-believers. It's just some fringe of the like fanatic religious who do that, but it's not like a rule. That's an exception.
I think
Yeah.
we need to confirm what the percentages are. We need to look at the research. So we can't say categorically whether it's most or not. But regardless, even if they are the minority, they are affected by religion, and we need to be concerned about it. Just the fact that 10% of the population does not seek medical attention because they believe that God will heal them, that is significant enough. One life lost is one life enough. So you're trying to downplay
No,
it
that's not
because
my
the
point.
percentage is low.
My point is that is not even religion, that's fanaticism.
No.
Because it's not like religion is asking people not to go to hospitals. That's not true.
Yes, it is. Let me
No.
tell you
No,
some.
I'm talking about, when I say religion, I'm not talking about sects or cults. I'm talking about the main religions, like mainstream religions, like Muslims, Christians. Like, you cannot overgeneralize, because there are some religions that say that you should kill yourself, literally. But it doesn't mean that you should put all of them in the same bucket.
Who is a fanatic in your view? Actually, let me even begin with, who is a religious person?
A religious person is someone who believes in a religion.
Yes.
But now-
and they get that information usually from their from who?
From
or
their
where?
religion, whether it's the
From
Bible
their
or
leaders,
whatever. Yeah.
From their leaders or their holy text.
Yeah.
So anybody that does something because of reference to their holy book or from their leaders is by definition religious.
That's my
Is by definition religious. And those holy texts are extremely fanatical and extreme. They have really extreme statements in them where Jesus claims that he is able to resurrect people, he's able to heal the blind, etc. And there are several people that believe this. I don't know why you're trying to make them seem like they are the exception. Oh,
Okay.
it's okay.
My point is not that all religious people behave the same. My point is that most religious people, when they are sick, they look for medical treatment. There are even religious institutions who own medical institutions.
He didn't say all. He said it's okay. He said some, and even if it is a minority, they warrant attention. Just the fact that religion sanctions this, to me, is a cause for concern.
Saying that people, they don't go to the hospital when they are sick because of religion, for me doesn't make sense, because most religious people, they will go to the hospital when they are sick if they can afford it. It's like it's true that there's some people who will not do that for religious reasons, but most people that are religious will actually go to the hospital. And you cannot use the fact that 10% or 5% of people that are extremely religious don't seek medical treatment when they are sick because they believe so much in their religion, to say that religion is bad. Like, it's an exception even among religious people. So it doesn't define religion. Get my point?
My problem would be health practices. You understand? Let's say like abortion. Abortion is largely, it's not even something that is most, it's social, but it's more prevalent because of religiousness, isn't it? The abortion case.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at the abortion case, religious institutions, they're like, don't abort, no matter what, or under serious
Yeah.
circumstances, can you?
Yeah.
So take for that information. Let's say to a rape victim or something, or someone who can't afford a child but has gotten has gotten a pregnancy and seeks to abort but can't because of the religious implications. Now, mind you, look at a place like the USA where there are laws that even bar abortion. Look at the economic welfare of such women. Why do they abort? Because they can't afford it. So it ties back to, yes, there's cults and sects, but also you have to understand that that message is ingrained in the scripture. It is read almost every Sunday or somewhere. It is read, it is ingrained. So it ties back to poverty. Because if you're truly religious and abortion is a moral thing nowadays, then to women, to look at the women, the single ones, the ones that can't afford the child.
But I don't see how that causes poverty. I don't see how religion causes poverty in that scenario.
Because if you can't take care of a child,
But why were you having unprotected sex if you could not take care of the child in the first place?
Now you've lost it. Now you've lost it. It doesn't matter why they had it. At the end of the day, they have this pregnancy that they cannot sustain, or this child that will come from the pregnancy who they cannot raise.
I understand.
And they have an out. They have an option out through an abortion, but religion is forbidding them from having that abortion.
Okay, I will not say if I believe that one is good or bad, but my point is that focusing on the abortion, it make us focus on the symptom instead of the cause. You cannot afford to have, if you have a child that you cannot afford to take care of, it's because you are taking actions without measuring the consequences.
Well, okay, here we are not gonna pontificate. At the end of the day, the child is there. What happens after is what relates to poverty.
That's my point.
But
You
let's
don't understand my point.
Yes, I understand it and I disagree. Let's proceed.